And let Megan know that you're ready to go.
Megan, everything's ready to go.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yes.
Chris, you're bright pink.
Okay. Excuse me, Chris, we have a Tim Tolman who's in the attendee list. Is he part of the meeting?
Ask Chris if he can hear you.
Say, Chris, can you hear me? This is the administrator, Lisa.
Can anybody in the meeting hear us?
I'm showing muted here.
This is Trevor. I can hear
Yes,
you.
we can hear you.
Oh, great.
Can hear you now also, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
This is Josh.
Chris has got a problem with his audio. So I get down here then, and oh, we've disabled chat. That's right. Chris is having problems.
We're getting ready to start.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, ask him again.
Say, Chris, this is
Hey,
Lisa.
Megan, we're going to have two outside folks joining us from McKinstry, Tom, and I think the other one's Kelly, maybe in 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay, I think one of them's already waiting to come in. Lisa, is that who you were asking about?
Yes, we have a Reed, a person by the name of Reed.
I still don't think he can hear you.
Okay.
I'll email him.
Okay, can folks hear
Thank you,
me?
Megan.
Yeah, I can hear you, Chris.
All right.
So I can hear you. Can you hear us?
All right. Looks like, yeah. All right. So anyways, as I noted there, Megan, we're going to get a couple folks joining us in a little bit. They've got this link. So once
Chris,
they join us, you
Chris,
let
can
them
you
in.
hear us?
One's Tom, and I think the other's Kelly.
I don't think you can.
Hey, it's 12 o'clock, so let's get started. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Missoula Energy and Climate Team for Thursday, January 14th, 2021. This meeting runs from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock and is available on the City of Missoula's YouTube channel for anybody who else wishes to watch.
Open that up so it's ready.
Let's see here. Let's call the meeting to order. And Megan, can you help us check in everybody, see who's here?
Yes, one moment. Chris, can you hear me?
And my speakers are not working here.
Great, okay. We'll just give it a sec.
I just texted asking the same question.
Sorry, my speakers were off. I missed if somebody said something.
Chris, can you hear us now?
Yeah, Megan, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Perfect. We will go ahead and take roll. Chris Rowe,
Here,
Jeremy,
Present?
Michael,
Here.
Brian.
Here, and thank you, Megan, for sending me that paperwork. I'll get it right back to you.
Sure. Scott. Okay. Josh.
Here.
Trevor,
Here.
David,
Here.
Amber,
Amber had a health committee meeting at this time, so she's not going to be joining us.
okay, thank you. And Chase Jones.
And Chase sent me an email that he wasn't able to make it either.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thanks for the roll call. I didn't, Megan, I didn't see the meeting minutes for the previous meeting when I checked on the eScribe.
Oh, shoot, you can't see them. I attached them. I must have attached them incorrectly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just go on eScribe usually to look for them.
Yeah, they should be there. Oh, yep, it looks like if you go, okay, well, we don't have to waste time troubleshooting. I'll attach them to the next meeting for approval. Sorry about that.
But folks, please do feel free to go on eScribe if you haven't tried that system and find the minutes and go ahead and read up on them for next time. So announcements, we do have two new team members. So I thought we would do introductions. Maybe we'll start with the existing team members and then let our new team members introduce themselves. You can tell us any about your background in energy and climate change or conservation or whatever it is that you think is interesting or relevant. I'll start out.
Chris,
Yeah.
this is Lisa. I'm helping administer the webinar. We have two attendees that are waiting. One by the name of Reed and one by the name of Scott. Should they be included?
Scott is one of our team members, and I see that so Reed and Tim Tolan are going to be presenting on our first action item. So we can go ahead and let them in.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll go ahead and start off. My name's Chris Rowe. I am the chair of the Energy and Climate team. Been on the team now not quite 2 years. I am sort of an environmental scientist by training, doing general environmental cleanups and environmental investigations, but I got started in renewable energy. In my last job, I worked at the Department of Energy's National Renewable Energy Lab in Golden, Colorado. And I did environmental reviews for them, but it also helped me learn a lot about renewable energy and energy conservation and what the city of, or what the US is doing through the Department of Energy. So when I moved up to Missoula a few years ago, I wanted to stay active in that. And I came across this team and I found it to be a very good venue for me to stay active in energy conservation and renewable energy. So that's me. I live on the south end of town in Miller Creek, and I really like it here in Missoula. So I'll just go around here. Let's start. Josh, you're the next one up on my screen.
Hey, welcome aboard, gentlemen. My name is Josh Nichols. I'm a North Sider. little bit on my background. I spent a couple years working in the regulatory world as a regional environmental counsel for the Air Force when I was active duty. I separated active duty, came back into private practice in Missoula for a few years, and just recently I'm back on active duty orders as a special victims counsel representing victims of sex assault in the military throughout the Western and Northwest United States.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for going back on active duty. This is important stuff to do. I appreciate that. I'm assuming you're going to stay here in town. You're not going to deploy to a base or anything?
That was kind of the sweet thing about this gig, is that it allowed me to stay in Missoula. Had it not allowed me to stay in Missoula, I probably wouldn't have done it. So.
Right. And they're holding your job over at your law firm?
No, I just left. I'm going to be in this gig for some time. So when it's finished, I'll see what's next.
All right. Well, best of luck in those endeavors. We appreciate your effort. Jeremy.
I'm Jeremy Flesch. I've served on the energy and climate team for about 1.5 years. I serve as vice chair, and I live in the area between the Good Food Store and Natural Grocers. So kind of in this River Road neighborhood area. My passion for the environment started many years ago. I hate to think of how many years ago it was by now, but in high school with, I actually did a report on recycling, and that kind of began my passion for the environment. I currently work focusing on the intersection of data analysis and student assessment, and have a great deal of passion for clean electricity and zero waste. And I'm excited to help Missoula move forward in these plans. I feel like we've got lots of different plans to move forward, and now it's all about execution.
Thanks, Jeremy. Scott?
Hi, I'm Scott McNall. I live up Grant Creek. I've been a university professor and administrator for 50 years, so I apologize for that. Sometimes I will sound like a lecturer, but can't help it. I've been interested in the issue of sustainability for some time. When I worked in California, I created an Institute for Sustainable Development in the North State. And we got a lot of people on board under the umbrella of sustainability, both local business owners as well as farmers. And ultimately, we had the largest student-run conference on sustainability in the country. I look forward to working with the rest of you, and I'll try to keep this short. So welcome to the group.
Thanks, Scott. Brian?
Yeah, I want to extend a warm welcome to the new members. Look forward to working with you. I've been on a team for over a decade now. And I live in the university area. I'm an engineer with the University of Montana, utility engineer, and been working at the university on a whole slew of renewable energy projects over the years. I'll leave it at that. Welcome.
Thanks, Brian. Michael?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Welcome, gentlemen. It's good to have you on board. I've been working with the team since 2015 on a variety of projects, and then formalized in 2017. I've got a pretty heavy science background, scientific work. My educational areas are in biology and chemistry and education and climate change. Taught out at the university and high schools in Missoula. I still enjoy every chance I can working with students, especially on energy and climate related issues. So happy to have you here, and look forward to the work we're going to do.
Fantastic. And we have Megan Staten is our contact with the city clerk office. They're the ones who keep us on the straight and narrow, and it looks like we also have Lisa with us. And we really appreciate their efforts. Without the clerk's office and their hard work, there's no way this team will succeed. So much appreciated to have them. So if they contact you, respond quickly. So moving on, let's go ahead and have Trevor. Maybe we can start with you.
Sure, I should have been better prepared. I knew this would probably happen. We just moved from Colorado, the Denver area, last winter, right before kind of the pandemic all hit. But I grew up in Western Colorado, and that's a big oil and gas area. So I think that's probably where my passion for kind of the energy and climate change subject has really permeated, of experiencing kind of firsthand a lot of issues that people only hear about in the news and things of that nature. And then just as I've grown and now with kids and things, it's become more of a passion just to leave something for them that's similar, at least to what we got to experience as kids. Professionally, I work as a financial advisor for Merrill Lynch. And kind of my niche market there is sustainable investing and ESG investing. So it's something individual I'm passionate about, but then also try to help clients that are also passionate about it as well. And then mainly with the last year of just 2020 in a nutshell, and coming from a very opinionated family, I've started to get very upset about talking about a lot and not doing much. And I thought this might be a good first step of trying to get more active and involved in community and see what I can do to help. So.
Excellent. Well, glad to have you. Welcome aboard. And next up is David Morris.
Hello, everybody. I'm Dave Morris. I'm really excited to be part of this group, and it's great to hear about all the great depth and variety of experience that people in the group have. My background is in environmental education with a wide variety of students, but for the last 20 years, it's been with university students through a variety of organizations associated with universities, and sometimes directly through the University of Montana. And what I teach is field courses where we take students out into the landscapes and into communities to see what's really happening, and then provide context with discussions and lectures and readings. Just all those experiences have really pushed me towards activism and more personal learning and more professional teaching on climate and energy issues. I started a course with the Wild Rockies Field Institute in 2006, where we bike across Montana studying energy and climate. And it's just become a part of everything I do. And I've been active with a number of local organizations, a little bit with 350.org, with Families for a Livable Climate, with Climate Smart Missoula. And in particular with them, I've helped start their local climate offset initiative that's kind of rolling out these days. So I'm really interested in creative solutions and ways that Missoula can be, a leader for its population, but then the state, and maybe come up with some interesting ideas that could be applied even further abroad. So, thanks for including me.
Thanks, David or Dave. Yeah, we were actually going to contact Climate Smart Missoula about learning more about that carbon initiative. So maybe we'll have you present on that at the next meeting if we can talk you into it.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe we can talk later. So I'd like to let's see here. Okay, sorry, I was just checking an email from Megan that came in. Maybe getting together remotely and chatting with you guys about the team and how it works, going through the bylaws, the nuts and bolts of how to operate as a government advisory board. So I'm actually taking off for a couple of weeks on a work trip here, starting
Oh, maybe we lost sound.
Hey, Megan, can you email Chris that he froze, please?
Chris, can you hear us?
All right, so maybe Jeremy will just keep moving on here for a second until Chris gets back. I see next on the agenda, he had that he was going to be discussing announcements of Chase Jones leaving the city. Jeremy, did you know specifically what he was going to talk about that, or I'm happy to pick up on that?
Yeah, I don't know specifically what Chris was going to talk about specifically on that. As everybody should have received the letter from Chase, with the exception of David and Trevor. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but we can certainly get that to you. Chase Jones served as, or currently serves until tomorrow, as the Energy and Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Missoula. Just as a way to catch up, David and Trevor, just at our last meeting in December, we met Charlotte Pissick. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, but it's P-S-I-C-K. She is now working with Chase and has been reporting to Chase for the past 6 months or so. But as Michael mentioned, Chase's last day is tomorrow. He will be sorely missed and really has played a big role in not only the plans that have been developed here in the city of Missoula, but also with environmental sustainability efforts all over Missoula and the region. So he definitely will leave big shoes to fill. But I spoke with him last week. He is working very hard to kind of finish up as much as he possibly can, and was hoping to be here at this meeting today. The next item on the agenda is public comments for items not listed on the agenda. And I don't know, do we have Chris back or?
Yeah, I'm back, Jeremy.
I'm back. Okay, excellent. Chris, I just gave a brief summary as far as Chase Jones and kind of updated David and Trevor as far as Charlotte goes. I don't know if you want to say anything else about Chase's departure as of tomorrow.
Yeah, there's one line in his email here that says, "I'll stay in Missoula and plan to stay engaged, albeit from a different place and position." So that is an indication that he has his next endeavor planned, and it will probably stay busy in climate change and energy issues. So we look forward to hearing that, what that looks like. He did send out his cell number and his Gmail address. So I will forward that to everybody. So that I'm just going to do that right now before I forget. And so everybody has his contact information. He says free to stay in touch. So on the next item, the public comments on items not listed on the agenda. For the new folks and for our two guests, what we do is we put out the information about the webcast and a phone number to call in, and we have to sort of wait a little bit of time to give them a chance to phone in or check in on the webcast in case they wish to make any comments to us. So for anybody who wishes to join us, you can visit www.ci.missoula.mt.us/webcasts to check in live. You can also call the number 1-253-215-8782, And when prompted, the meeting ID is 960-049-3694. And that information is also available on our agenda on the Missoula eScribe page. So we'll just take a minute in case anybody's trying to get in touch with us. Sorry about losing you guys there. That's, I think, maybe a result of the winds we had yesterday. Our internet's been a little wonky since then. So hopefully that won't affect us again, but just in case, I'm sure Jeremy seems like he'll just jump right in. So no problem there. So next up, we're finally gotten around to getting the two Missoula representatives from McKinstry here, and we're really excited about that. That's Tim Tolman and Reed. I didn't catch Reed's last name, but we'll let them introduce themselves. And they're going to be talking about the Missoula Energy Performance Contract. They may also delve into, they also have energy performance contracts, not only with the city of Missoula, but with the University of Montana. Brian's been very involved in that, and also with Missoula County. And so one of the neat opportunities I think these guys are going to talk about is some synergy between those three entities on finding activities that all three can share, or two in various partnerships for energy performance. So we're looking forward to hearing about that. So I'm going to hand it off to Tim and to Reed, and look forward to hearing about it.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
How about me? Sound okay?
Reed sounds good.
All right.
You'd rather talk to Tim than Reed. I'll tear that right off. So what we're going to do is Reed's going to pull up a little bit of a PowerPoint so we can go over tell you what we're doing in the city. I think as you guys did, we'll give you a brief bit of information about the two of us personally, and then we'll move on. I've been in Montana for 68 years. I was born in Superior, just west of town. I spent my entire life here, growing up mostly in the Missoula area, out in Frenchtown and associated. I've been involved in energy since about 1991. Mostly through conservation, but in various aspects of it, and it's become my life's work and my passion. I came to McKinstry. I guess I started McKinstry in Montana from our Seattle office about 12 years ago, and have built with a good team, built a good amount of people who dedicate their life to conservation and such. So Reed, go ahead.
Well, I haven't been in Montana quite as long as Tim, but it has been all 33 years. Grew up a little outside of Missoula, went to school in Frenchtown, went to school both at UM and MSU, graduated from MSU with a mechanical engineering degree. Tim recruited me right out of school. And I've done various things for McKinstry, from energy analysis, commissioning, engineering, and now like project development, project management.
So with that, we'll get going here. We're going to, the first thing I'd like to say is, if at any time, would you guys please interrupt us, because we're not much into presentations. We'd rather have a conversation, but don't hesitate to interrupt us at any time. So Reed, next slide. So first thing, this may seem out of place, but McKinstry is a very, very hardcore into safety. I heard some statistics this morning that here's a couple of interesting ones about construction, which energy has a lot of. A construction person has a 2% chance, which may not seem like a lot, but a 2% chance of losing their life in a construction job. And so construction is just really a dangerous place to be. And there's a lot of construction in energy, whether it's lighting retrofits or generation or whatever. So we start every meeting that we have anywhere with a safety moment. So I will just tell everybody as you're out doing your projects and doing things, please watch yourself. Reed? Who we are. McKinstry's a 50-year-old company based out of Seattle. Started as a plumbing group. After being a plumbing group, we got into design build because our clients, we thought it was a better way to go. And so we do design build and do very little bid build work. And after that, when we were working with clients in Seattle, they started asking us about energy. Can you help us with our energy bills? So about 23 years ago, we started what's called an energy services company. An energy services company, which you'll learn deals mostly in performance contracting, assisting folks in saving energy through the savings they get. And so about 13 years ago, I was working for an architectural group in the state, CTA Architects Engineers, and we were dealing with McKinstry. And one day I got up on the other side of the bed and started the McKinstry office. We've been here for 13 years, obviously. We've done about $100 million worth of conservation work in that time. A lot of K-12, a lot of higher education, University of Montana, Montana State, Montana Tech, University of Montana Western, just about to do some things at Helena College. So we've done a lot of that work. We have 19 people, and something I want to, what we do is we develop the projects and we manage the projects. The one thing I think is really important to know is we use local contractors for all the work. We don't bring in people from Seattle. We don't do that. We use local contractors to get the work done, and that really has helped us be successful in the state. Read next slide. Maybe.
Here it goes.
There we go. Oh, I just said what we are and what we do, so I was pretty quick at that. So Reed, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I'll go into the details a little bit more on what we do and kind of elaborate on what Tim was talking about, and specifically the energy performance contracting piece of it. And so, this slide is kind of a transition between who we are and what we do, because it's part of our ethos. And that's that, when you look at the pie chart of facility economics, we believe that half, the 50% of operations and energy, is underestimated a lot when people look at the picture of what something costs. And then we believe that 50% of that cost is generally wasted. So that's our goal, is to dig down into that 50% of operations and energy, figure out how we can be efficient and help entities achieve their goals. So how does the actual funding mechanism of performance contracting work? It can sound a little bit like magic, but it's really, if we break it down into a budget picture and then talk about realizing savings, it starts making sense. So following that ethos, on the left, we're seeing before EPC, we've got a section of that cost is potential utility and operation savings. And so what we want to do is quantify that, right? And find opportunities in that. And so what an energy performance contractor will do is actually guarantee those savings outcomes based on the project that will be implemented. And so what we'll do is guarantee that quantity, and then you can use that savings reduced during the finance period to actually pay for that debt service. And so once your debt service is over, if you've borrowed against it, on the fourth column there, you can see you have continued savings that go on as long as those pieces of equipment or those systems or those buildings stay in that same condition. And so that's realized money to your bottom line.
And I will tell you that when you're looking at the savings there, as Reed will show you, that the savings are pretty much, can be pretty substantial. We can go into almost any building right now and find 15% energy savings. Most of the time you find 20, 25, and 30% energy savings. And so you can pay for a good amount of improvements and energy reduction improvements through those savings.
Gentlemen,
And,
this is Michael. I just had a quick question for you, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you folks branch into the financial end too, and providing financial sources, or do you farm that out to others?
What we do on that is locally. What we do is with the universities and the school districts and towns. At times they'll go to the state institution, what's it called? Read the board of
investments.
Board of investments, and do that. We can help arrange the financing, and in many cases, we use local banks. And local banks find it kind of interesting because in the beginning, when you bring them a project or somebody does, they're a little hesitant to do it. But when a school district or somebody will bring a project to a local bank now, and there's a guarantee associated with that their cash flow is guaranteed, the local banks jump on pretty quickly.
And it's a little bit different animal, but as public-private partnerships are becoming more common, McKinstry does have financial partners where we will do kind of like a DBOM, design, build, own, operate, maintain arrangement. So where we will actually help provide third-party financing for a project.
and a question from David.
Go ahead, Dave.
Hey, I was interested if you get into carbon markets and offsets at all as part of the financial picture, or is that something you see on the horizon?
I have not gotten into any of that, and I honestly don't know if we have in Greater McKinstry. It's not something I have experience with.
Do you, within the post installation period, is that normally at 5, 10, 30? What sort of windows are we talking about?
Well, the state statute in Montana, when we guarantee something with any public building, the state statute says that we must do a monitoring and verification of those savings for 3 years. And let's just say, for the sake of it, every once in a while we may miss our guaranteed savings, as we have. If we miss a savings, we're guaranteeing somebody $75,000 and it comes in at 70. We have to write a check for it. We have to write a check for the difference. And so we miss it. Let's say we miss it in year 2 or 3. Well, then that 3-year period starts over. You have to have verified guaranteed savings for 3 years in a row. And so the contracts are usually determined by statute. The contracts for school districts are limited to 15 years, and the university and the state can, and the city and the county can go up to 20 years.
Gotcha. And obviously you guys do more than just the energy savings on existing facilities, but I'm sure you'll get to that shortly.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, I won't spend too much time on the M&V, the measuring savings section. But this just shows the baseline period, what a building's doing currently, right? And then how we'll look at that afterwards. The shaded area is just showing that savings is realized in the next year as compared to that baseline. And like Tim said, that's that guaranteed and measured difference there. Next two we'll go through just really quickly. Just want to reinforce a little bit of the differences between going through an energy performance contractor versus kind of a traditional procurement. And really it's just the organizational structure on this slide. Really, it's a single point of accountability. Part of the reason we like to do that is because of the guarantee on both the cost and the savings. So we like to be in control of the entire process. What's nice for an owner is that they have one point of accountability for an entire project instead of trying to manage multiple entities or multiple firms. And because we do that all for them. So this is also an intrinsic part of delivering design, build, and energy performance contracting is that the actual workflow and the schedule looks a little different, right? In a design, bid, build, traditional delivery, you would go through a process kind of sequentially and linearly, right? You would have an idea, hire a designer, go through multiple phases of design, do some construction estimating during those periods. You would bid it out, you'd get your construction team, you'd build it, be done, right? Well, with energy performance contracting, which is just a very specific form of design build construction, it's a little bit more of a parallel path. And we do check-ins earlier in the process on price and outcome so that essentially things can move along both quicker and more efficiently. So we're developing ideas, doing early design, and then putting hard numbers to those designs earlier in the process so that we can make decisions on what project's going to be implemented before we go to final design. And then rather than bidding, we'll actually get those construction team members that are providing those estimates on board and on the team earlier. This way we just have an integrated team that's already working with each other since design rather than kind of pitching a design over the fence and then handing it to a construction team. All right, so the third section, who we're working with. Tim, I'm gonna hand it back off to you.
Okay, go ahead and go to the next one. Well, as you mentioned earlier, Chris, we have existing performance contracts with the University of Montana, the city, and the county all together. And so we actually been working with the University of Montana, Brian and his group for quite a while. We did a project, I don't know, 7-8 years ago on the university center. But right now what we're doing with the university is we're assisting them with high-level energy master planning. We're looking at a lighting retrofit of, as you can see, about 2.6 million square feet, taking it to LED. And then we're also looking at 4 buildings on campus that really need some upgrades. They just use a lot of energy, and we're looking at those buildings. Additionally, we're looking at on-site generation, the possibility of 1 megawatt of rooftop generation. And then we're looking at a possibility of a 4 megawatt combined heat and power at the university. And lastly, there's some smart meters. Brian has expressed interest in getting all of his meters up to be smart meters so that we can tell exactly what energy is being used in what buildings. Now, I won't go, maybe I went over that too much in detail, but you can see we're looking at the city also lighting all 3 parking structures and outdoor field lighting, 9 buildings, about 173,000 square feet for efficiency, rooftop solar in 6 buildings. And then an interesting one that people don't think about for energy is the irrigation, because water usage is energy usage. And we're finding, as you will know later on as you hear from us, that water usage is one of the better paybacks. Whether it's on university campus or city parks or things like that, it pays back relatively quickly. The county, you can see what we're doing there. What the county wants to do is they want us to start with a smaller footprint. They want us to start with the county detention center, and they want us to start with the county courthouse. And so we're looking at those. Even though the courthouse is really, parts of the courthouse are relatively new, there are many sections of it that just aren't efficient at all. And the detention center is one inefficient building. I mean, it's got obviously 7 by 24, but there's a lot that can be done. And one of the things that they're working on that we may help them with, we don't know yet, is almost a 0.5 megawatt of rooftop solar. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we're doing with these guys. And there's a lot of work to be done in the county of Missoula with all 3 entities.
So this is Chris again. Do you guys, these don't appear at this level to have any connections between the city and the county and the university. You guys must be at least having those discussions about future projects or master planning that might have some integration.
That's just about what we're to tell you in about 2 slides.
Okay.
So,
I did have another question on the lighting and parking structures.
You bet.
Those also have these pretty good sized ventilation systems. Does the energy efficiency of those ventilation systems also fall into that?
Yeah, it absolutely could. Sorry, the screen got away from me there. There's not huge ventilation systems in the parking structures here in town, but they definitely will be within scope and something we'll take a look at.
Okay, thanks, Reed.
Quick question.
Yeah.
That solar is part of the plans for all the entities you're working with. Are you finding that is a energy saving or a monetary savings at this point to install new solar?
Yeah, what we're seeing is that panel efficiency and then costs of manufacturing have both increased and decreased respectively, enough that those financial pictures are starting to look quite good, actually. And
that's without subsidies?
Yeah, the tax credits help too, for sure. As you know, there's a federal tax credit. And so all that coming together makes solar pretty appealing, especially when you can start scaling it. Projects like, large buildings on the university and then the detention center for the county, those buildings are slam dunks for sure.
David, in looking at that, it's interesting because these are public buildings. The ability of the city, county, university to take to use those tax credits it's not available for them. But that's where a PPP may come into us, having somebody work with us, either as a PPP or a third party, to do some unique things to make that realized, so that an entity can get lower cost and somebody else can get the tax credits for doing it and make their money, if you will, that direction. Reed, go ahead.
The last piece to the building conservation picture here that I just wanted to mention is that, there's conservation goals and emissions goals that all these entities have. And these projects have a direct impact on those, right? And so one of the things we'll do is help quantify those. I just got our sample calculator up here just to demonstrate, and you can see there's very round numbers, 500,000 kWh, 50,000 therms, et cetera. But, it can be helpful to quantify these in terms of things that, make it a little more tangible: number of vehicles on the road, number of trees planted, miles not driven, et cetera, et cetera. So something that we always keep in mind and can help quantify. All right, so the last section and what everybody's been waiting for is kind of the bigger picture and eco districts and connecting entities. So I think we'll dive right in and talk about what that is, at least from McKinstry's perspective. And then we'll give some examples of projects that we've been involved in or helping broker right now. And then nothing specific to the Missoula community yet, but I think the idea here is to get everybody on the same page as far as the concept, what we're talking about, and then get the gears turning as to, what might be realistic here in our community. Tim, you want me to lead off?
Yeah, you're doing great. I'm relaxing.
All right. So kind of 4 pieces to an eco district, efficient, connected, smart, and flexible. So really what we're talking about is getting these buildings efficient, making sure that we've got data, making sure that they can talk not only within themselves, but to other buildings, and then maybe even to outside entities. And then they can adapt to a flexible changing grid. And so really there becomes 5 pillars to get this done, right? The zero carbon, or maybe rather than zero carbon, that's the ultimate goal, right? But let's say uber efficient too. we want to start with a baseline of a building that's really as efficient as we can possibly get it on its own, standalone, right? And so that would be employing things like conservation through energy performance contracting. Then we really want to make sure that those buildings are using technology to their advantage, right? And so that means having sensors on as much as we possibly can to gather as much data as we can, and then also making sure that they all speak the same language, right? For so long, information systems have been siloed. And so trying to figure out how to integrate those into a common language and a common data repository is really part of the goal as well. Once we connect these things, then we can start sharing energy building to building, especially if we've got either common utilities or diversified loads, right? Then it makes sense to start physically shipping energy around between multiple buildings. And where this gets really interesting is where you can start pulling the utility in. And so just to get it out in the open, we all know that our utility in Montana, our primary utility, Northwestern Energy, has been a little resistant to some of these more progressive initiatives, but we've got to keep working on it, right? And so bringing them along with us is going to be part of the challenge. And then the last pillar is engaged occupants. And I guess, in my opinion, that should be owners, operators, and occupants, right? We want to have that whole trifecta of all stakeholders that own, operate, and use that building, bought in, excited about what we're doing, and contributing to the ultimate goal. We're going to dive into some case studies here just to show you what McKinstry has done and is currently working on. So Cleese Properties, this is kind of the most simple example that we've got. And it is a brute force, let's share energy between two buildings without necessarily, prior plans. And what's happened is we've got a data center in one building that requires a ton of cooling, right? And previously that's done mechanically, which costs a bunch of energy to gather that heat and export it out to the ambient environment. Well, we also have an office building nearby. And so what if we could capture that heat that's 24/7 coming out of the data center and use it in the office building? And so that's what's been done, is that the office building is cooled, that heat, the data center is cooled, that heat is then exported to the office building where it's used in a heat pump to actually be put into that mechanical system and provide heating for that building. And so that actually creates a net cooling effect then back to the data center, along with a storage tank where we can have, I believe it's almost up to a 500,000 gallon storage tank of water for an emergency or for off-peak times to cool that data center. Next example, Alexandria Real Estate. So this is a multi-building complex that has taken kind of a two-step approach. The first is to use energy conservation and smart design to kind of build a baseline, right? And so looking at existing buildings, figuring out what systems we want to employ to get that solid baseline performance, and then think about how can we connect and share energy. And so really the hallmark of this one is that gray water sewer waste heat recovery system. That's the last bullet on here. And we'll dive into that a little bit more here. So I wish I remembered exactly, but I want to say it's like a 52-inch sewer main is the heart of this project. And so you wouldn't think that that's a ton of a heat source, right? Because you're still using domestic cold water to evacuate sewage, but you still have enough of a temperature gradient there and enough of a flow rate from these multiple buildings that you have a decent amount of energy to recover. And so by grabbing that waste heat energy, it's essentially enough to power 125 US homes. So that is a substantial amount. And the CO2 savings is 4.6 million pounds per year, or 451 cars. So something that wouldn't necessarily be maybe first top of mind is actually proving to be quite an energy intensive project. So this one showcases a little bit where the utility can get pulled in, and how that piece really starts making sense on a bigger, larger picture. And so here we've got 3 nodes, and all these nodes have a little bit of a dissimilar load profile. And by that, I mean, maybe they need cooling and heating at slightly different times, or they have peak electrical demands at different times. And so coordinating between them presents opportunities. So the 3 are the University District, the South Lake Union and Seattle Center, as well as the Capitol Hill District. And so they have Seattle City Light as a utility that is going to not only be playing with data on their side of the meter, but also start peeking into how the buildings are actually functioning, using that to inform what they're seeing on their side of the meter, and then doing a coordinated demand response and load share between these 3 zones within the city.
Hey, Reed, I've got a question, if that's all right.
Yeah.
This is Chris. So when you guys are talking about collecting this data, there isn't obviously an immediate return on investment that way.
Yeah.
So this is not necessarily an energy performance contract approach. You guys must come at this from a different contractual obligation, where all these data gathering, data management is a bid or a fixed contract for you guys up front.
Yeah, certainly there's a fixed cost to get it all set up, right? We firmly believe that once you have all that data and the infrastructure to collect it and analyze it in place, you do start seeing savings and you do start seeing an ROI, right? But without having that data, it's very hard to quantify what that's going to be. And so that's why there is a fixed cost to get those sorts of things set up. That's not necessarily, like you said, in a typical energy performance contract measure with an associated ROI.
Internally, Chris, excuse me, with regard to the city, county, and the University of Montana, we have discussed how to approach that fixed cost. And I think in the beginning, McKinstry, we believe there's potential here for an eco district in this area. I think McKinstry is willing to put out a fair amount of money to do that analysis and data collection at our risk, because we really believe it's there.
Right. Now, some of this, I know you guys, I'll get to you next, David, that you've got your investment grade audits that you have to cover. Obviously, that will allow you to collect a certain amount of this data, and that's part of any EPC. So but that doesn't, the audit doesn't necessarily ramp up sensors and necessarily manage a whole lot of data. So you might there's some overlap there, but not exactly.
You put it perfectly, but there's enough overlap there that I believe that we're fine with taking the additional risk on.
Good, thanks. All right, David?
So just to be sure I understand the Seattle City Light project, are you basically like peak shaving the demand by coordinating, sort of power use that can be shifted in time among these different neighborhoods?
That is the main goal, is to essentially peak shave, and doing that both at the utility level as well as the building operator level. So getting in and actually looking at how these buildings are operating their mechanical and HVAC systems and intelligently controlling those.
And is there a sense of how much power I guess, take the economics, like how much can be saved in that way?
I don't have a good feel on this one, as this one's in concept and in development. Right. So I don't have a good answer for you. Sorry.
No, that's really interesting though.
Hey, gentlemen, this is Michael. I was wondering too, we really like those projects that are the lowest hanging fruit and we can really push to help people save energy on the things that they're doing every day anyway. Do you guys do much work, or have you done much work with any subnet metering or of those intelligent electronic devices, or any any virtual synchronous converter projects?
I have not personally done either of those. I know we definitely have done some of the subnet metering in other areas, probably in the Seattle market, but I don't have specific experience with them.
Did you realize some good savings out of those for the subnet metering that you do know about?
I don't honestly know what the savings picture looks like. I'm glad to dig into it and follow up with you, though.
Thank you.
Yeah. We've got one last case study, and then we can open up to kind of general discussion. And I saved this one for last for kind of two reasons. One is this is kind of McKinstry's it's our pet project, honestly. I mean, we've invested a ton of money making this our proof of concept of this idea. It also has all these pillars aligned in one project. And so just to go through them real quick, we have uber efficient design, right? We have buildings being added to this complex that are starting with the end in mind and actually putting the uber efficient mindset to work from the very beginning. We also are physically connecting these buildings. So we have a central plant that is allowed to collect thermal energy as well as store electrical energy, and then load share both thermal and electrical between the connected buildings. So you've got the physical connection. The new Catalyst building is also, we've been touting it as one of the smartest buildings in the world because of the number of sensors and the fact that they're all networked together and speak the same language. Doesn't matter the system, right? I shouldn't say they speak the same language. They all get repositoried in the same language would probably be the most accurate. And so whether they're speaking a different language, they all get collected into a data source where we can analyze them and then actually make decisions based on that data in a universal format. So fire, security, HVAC, lighting, everything comes back to one data collection. The last piece is utility, right? So they complete the picture. We've got a Vista on board that is allowing us to transcend that dotted line at the meter that has traditionally been difficult. And so we're able to communicate with them what we're doing in the building, and they're able to see what we're doing in the building. And so we're actually sharing data across that meter rather than there being that traditional line in the sand. And we're fortunate to have a utility that's willing to participate. So that really kind of wraps up what we've got today, and looking forward to any discussion and answering any questions.
I'm going to start out here, just more of maybe a little concern we've got. So obviously the communication between the city and McKinstry has primarily gone through Chase Jones, and I know Charlotte is still with the city, but is new, and so one of the things that our team will have to do in working with you guys is to make sure that we stay in the loop as your audits and your proposed projects come through, and being able to review those and provide any assistance that we may. And so I don't know quite how that's going to work, but just that's going to be a little hitch in our giddy up here, probably for the coming months until they get Chase's position filled. So we may end up, we'll always try to work through the city staff, through Charlotte or whatever, but there may be some more direct communications just so we don't miss out on anything. Is we're a board that meets monthly, and it's easy for us to get forgotten in the day-to-day grind, as Chase is wont to tell us frequently. So just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, one thing, Chris, I think is important is you're right. We need an excellent replacement for Chase because he did an outstanding job. But then again, at the county, you have Diana Mineta, and she's outstanding. And at university, we have Brian. And so the ability to continue to communicate, we've already had very preliminary meetings in trying to get something going here. But having this phone call with you guys and waiting for the new person to get going, I don't think is any reason to slow down. I think that we should work with Brian and Diana and the city to determine what exactly is the first step to determining if this even makes sense for Missoula, and then having some meetings with you guys and them to move forward. And like I say, we'll do it at our risk because we know there's potential. We've been in all these buildings and the university all too often now to know there's not potential.
Thank you, Tim. Anybody else?
To add to that a little bit, if until you have a replacement for Chase, if there is something that we can do in preparation for your monthly meetings, even if it's just a quick, paragraph update to shoot your way, or if you'd like us to even call in and just give a status update, we're glad to do so. So just let us know what your preference is.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think in addition to working with Chase's office and the new people in place, I think there's a lot of connection too with the stretch building code that we've been talking about. And I know Development Services in Missoula has really gone through a big change over there and are still in the middle of that flux. So maybe this would be a great time to bring in like Aaron Pehan and even Aaron Bowman from over there to try and see if we can incorporate some of this into the stretch building code idea.
I put that down as an action item, Michael.
I'd like to just sort of add, just because I've been into the carbon offset world for a little bit here, I'm interested in the potential for local carbon offsets that could be associated with the kind of projects that you all are involved with. The thing we've been doing with Climate Smart Missoula is trying to have people able to offset their carbon emissions with local projects that they can see, interact with, talk to people about. It makes it much more concrete. And for example, the credit union bought offsets that allowed mini split heat pumps to be used in an affordable housing development rather than traditional heating. And so they're offsetting a lot of their emissions by that upgrade. So I don't really know how that might mesh with anything you're doing, but it seems like there's potential there somehow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'll be involved with Climate Smart and be thinking about these things and potentially be in touch about options for integrating something like that, because I think this sort of integrated approach is really a great way to, particularly working with public buildings, to accomplish lots of goals at once.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
we're glad to have the conversation.
Yeah, I'll leave you guys with something because I know it's on your agenda for later. But about 6 years ago, we did an investment grade audit on the federal building, the GSA building. And I know the city and county are looking at that, and we've been talking to them about it. But we think that the energy savings potential in the federal, well, we know it. We've done investment grade audit. The energy savings there are very good. Obviously, the lighting, the existing heat pumps that they use, everything that they do is relatively inefficient. And so we believe as we move forward, and we'll be talking to the county and the city about what if they plan to move forward with that doing the mechanical systems and the lighting systems through a performance contract that can pay for those systems will reduce their overall need for going out for as much capital. So we'll be talking to them about doing that also.
And just to pass along what our team has done, we've got a proposal that's going, it's currently being referred to the Parks and Conservation Board run by Cheryl Cheryl. I do that all the time. But the idea is that we want the federal building, if the city and county choose to take it on, to be an energy efficiency, renewable energy demonstration project. So, I'd be happy to share that information with you. It should come out once we get that referred through the various councils. I did hear that it'll be from Amber that it'll be probably a year to 2 years before any formal action, moving any wires anyways would occur. So I think we have time to make EPC and energy demonstration projects, something like that still happen. We still have time. Sometimes it feels like it's going to happen tomorrow when you read the paper, but it's going to be a longer term effort. And we really hope that they're willing to take a step forward and demonstrate to the community what the city wants to do with energy conservation, renewable energy.
Yeah, Chris, I think that would be an excellent building to do that on, the ability to do things with the existing systems, lighting, stuff like that. But then you have quite a bit of square footage on a roof there. There's some possibilities there to do some things that would really make that a good project.
Yeah, with the HVAC and also they have limited parking, so they're going to have to do transportation issues. They've got, but passive solar with a bunch of wall sizes and whatnot.
Yep.
One other follow-up question: Do you guys ever deal with RECs at all? Is that something that ever comes up in any of your projects? You're basically your renewable energy credits. The city buys renewable energy credits as part of their energy offset. So they, you go on the market and you buy them because somebody built a big solar farm somewhere and they've got extra carbon credits that they can sell.
Yeah, that's not something that we've delved into in the state. Yeah.
Not in Montana. I don't know that. We can all ask that in McKinstry overall also.
Sounds good. Did somebody else have a question? I kind of jumped in there. Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Tim and Reed for making this presentation. And I've alluded to, I worked with them for a number of years. And I don't think this really came out in the discussion of EPC, but one of the reasons the university uses it is it's an alternate delivery process, and one that at least I find very enticing, because we usually do the design, bid, build project, which, as Reed alluded to, is much more time intensive. So if you go EPC, you shorten that time period. So if the project needs to be done quicker to recognize savings quicker, EPC is a possible way to go. And then also when you do the design, bid, build, typically you're compelled to take the cheapest provider of those services. And, the old adage rings true, you get what you pay for. And at the university, we struggle all the time with correcting cheaply built projects. So going EPC, you have the opportunity to select the people you want to work with and also the equipment that you want to have installed. And I think for those benefits, again, are a very good thing for EPC. I guess, you can make the counter argument that if you do your design, bid, build properly, you get everything you want at the cheapest price possible. But just frequently, as I said, our experience shows that really isn't the case.
Yeah, I think to use this, you have to look at best value instead of lowest cost. And best value means, meeting goals beyond just economic ones, meeting carbon reduction goals, and realizing that you could probably make a little more money if you put the lights in yourself versus having these guys do it. And you may not see economic recovery on that for whatever the 5-10 years is, but you're meeting additional goals and you're getting best value. So I always, in contracting, I always prefer that term, best value than low cost. It seems to work a whole lot better in the end. David.
Just one other question. I've heard of energy performance contracting before, but really know very little about it. Are there, and you all seem to work in large public building projects for the most part. Is there energy performance contracting for smaller private businesses as well? And are there any of those active in the Missoula area?
It depends, I guess, David, what you mean by smaller.
Yeah.
We certainly can do performance contracting and residential buildings that are shared, things like that. But you got to be real careful there, because usually what happens in something where residents are sharing buildings is they have absolutely inefficient, cheap construction with individual furnaces. All of a sudden, there's not a lot we can do. We can certainly do lights, we can certainly do some things, but individual furnaces make it a little tough. But to answer your question, we look at everything project by project, and you certainly can do them. We don't have a limit in Montana as to what project we'll look at for how large the project is. I mean, we may come to a quick conclusion by walking through before the audit that this doesn't make any sense economically, but we look at them all.
And along that, this carbon purchasing bank that Energy Missoula, Climate Smart Missoula is using, it was implemented on a small affordable housing complex. What was it, like a 9-10 unit complex? But we got a couple of these, multi-hundred unit affordable housing complex going up in town here. And like you said, these are often like stick build, not that efficient to begin with, whether they use central boilers or heating, or every unit having its own air conditioner. Have you guys thought about working with the municipal or the housing authority on any of these larger affordable housing projects?
We have not done that yet. We have not done that. Now, you bring up an interesting point. Sometimes when these are larger housing projects, they can have common areas. They can share larger systems for those common areas. Something like that we can definitely help with, and we'd love to meet with them.
Yeah, it's worth thinking about, and I don't know as they go forward, typical with these stick built apartment complexes, everybody's got their own heat, everyone's got their own hot water.
Yeah.
But with the affordable housing, there may be value in doing central units, central boilers and whatnot. And it might be worth talking to the housing authority about thinking about that versus having individual systems within each unit.
Yeah.
So we should put that down to follow up on.
Yep.
And I'd go back to your point of best value, right, Chris? They're so often designed and built with first cost in mind. And going back to that ethos slide of, first cost is approximately 15% of the total cost that a building is going to incur in its life cycle. So if we can start with that mentality and look at both the long-term total cost of ownership ROI, as well as some of those intangibles that you were talking about, I think the picture becomes really compelling.
All right, it's a good discussion to keep going with. All right, we're just about out of time. Any last comments from Tim or Reed before we move on to other business?
No, we're just going to say thank you. Well, we appreciate this. It's nice. In all honesty, I've heard about the group, but until Brian and you, Chris, reached out, that's nice to know what's going on. Sometimes these groups strike me as just, every group's important, but just a lot of talk and no action. It seems to me that this group's about action, and I like hearing that.
We're trying, but it's been a struggle. I will have to say it's folks like Brian know it's been a huge struggle to turn talk into action. That's for sure.
It is tough.
Yeah.
Well, thank you from the both of us. We appreciate you inviting us.
Sure.
Yep.
And you're
Thanks
welcome to
very much,
stay on.
guys.
Guys,
You
one, Tim and Reed, one question. I had to step out for a phone call earlier, so I missed part of the presentation. Number one, thank you for coming to present. What I heard was excellent. Secondly, are you able to send out the presentation? Are you able to share what was just the slides that were on?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. We'll send it.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Take
you
care,
guys-
guys. See
You're
ya.
welcome to stay on if you want, or head off, whichever.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Next up on the federal building update. Basically, the next step is the referral to Parks and Conservation Committee. We were hoping to talk to Amber about that today, but as I said, she's in a health committee meeting. But that referral process is the next step where she'll write up a referral, take it to that committee. If that committee reviews it and approves it, then another referral to either another committee if it's necessary, or to the city council. So that's really the only update on that at the moment. So my understanding from Megan, as of 31st of December, we had 2 candidates for the youth team members. And we, Michael and I, along with Megan, decided to extend that out till the end of January. So we should, we believe we'll get 3. I've actually heard from another parent that there's another kid who's interested. So once that all happens in February, if it all goes well, we'll have 3 youth team members. And I just wanted to put out there that we sort of need sorry, my phone's ringing, an onboarding process. Some of this stuff where we're, going to teach these kids how boards work and what expectations are and how we operate and all this stuff. And so I know Michael's been very busy at this, and I haven't done as much as I'd like, but maybe creating a little work group to try to at least outline and start putting together some of the information necessary for these youth team members to get up to speed. So I'm certainly happy to take the lead on that. Anybody else who wants to join in and help out, I'd really appreciate any volunteers.
Yeah, happy to keep working on it too, Chris. And I think we'd obviously want to pull Megan in to help us out with the city requirement and for the board. And then I did want to ask the board too. I had a question from one of the students that contacted me about that they attend Big Sky High School, but they actually live in Florence. And would that preclude them from being on the team?
I believe in our bylaws, Michael, that they have to be resident of the city of Missoula. Obviously, with the Missoula County public schools high school system, that includes pretty much the whole county.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring it to the board to make sure I was right in that.
That's my understanding. Megan, do you have any comment on that?
As I'm still fairly new in my position, I would have to double check with Marty on that, and I'm happy to follow up.
Right. I believe it's in the bylaws, our new bylaws. And Megan, if double check that you have ones that we approved last, was it early summer, are the most recent ones. And that's got the whole youth team member section in there. All right. Well, hopefully at the next meeting we'll have some new youth team members for our new guys, Trevor and Dave. It's kind of exciting. We're to bring in some young people on our team. They'll be non-voting members, and there's a little bit of information actually on the recruitment website. You may have seen it when you guys were applying about what this looks like, but bringing in some energy and also trying to work with youth who are interested in going into conservation or related fields. So we're really excited about this opportunity. All right, making progress. Anybody, any other comments on that? Sorry.
If you need any more help putting together a welcome packet or onboard stuff, I'm happy to get in on that too.
All right, I'll put your name down, Josh. Thank you, sir. All right, two things. One is the cryptocurrency permanent rezoning regulation. It was interesting. It was out. It's a county regulation, but the city board is development board is actually working on it as well. So one thought was, I'm sort of trying to pull this up on my screen. I put together a draft resolution to support the section of that revised bill that deals with the requirement for renewable energy for 100% of the cryptocurrency operations. I'm trying to find my draft resolution here. So basically what this says is a resolution in support of the proposed Missoula County February 2021 cryptocurrency mining zoning regulations, specifically Section 2, Chapter 5, subsection 505, Part C, Item 3, a requirement to develop or purchase sufficient new renewable energy to offset 100% of the electricity consumed. To meet this condition, the cryptocurrency mining operation must be able to establish that their actions will introduce new renewable energy into the electrical grid beyond what has been developed otherwise. So, and then we got our wherefore and whereases. So there's going to be a meeting that coming up, I believe on the 19th is when that county meeting or the city is meeting on this. So I'm looking for it here. So January 19th at 6 p.m. Via Zoom. The action by the Missoula Consolidated Planning Board, which is city and county, will be to, let's see here, recommend a motion that the Missoula County zoning regulations be amended as shown in these definitions and attachments and under Section 505 of this new rule. So what I'd like to do is, if folks are interested, is pass this resolution and forward it to the Missoula Consolidated Planning Board prior to their meeting on the 19th, and maybe have somebody attend via Zoom to talk about why that we believe that's a priority. So with that, I'm going to open up to the floor. Scott?
Yeah, with Bitcoin at 33,000, a lot of people are individually mining Bitcoin. Break-even point with our own cost of power for Northwestern seems to be somewhere around $3,000. There have been a couple of cities in the state of Washington, and I do not remember which, that have tried to ban in-home cryptocurrency mining operations because they're there just because power is cheap and a computer can run all day long, and maybe if you get one coin a week, you're golden. So I like the resolution as stated because it's referring to larger facilities, but it does nothing to prevent individual miners. Just comment.
And yeah, I'm jumping in on that real quick. And Scott, thanks for that. That's an excellent point. And I think it was Ephrata was one of those cities in Washington that was trying to do that. But Chris, I really appreciate the draft, and I think it's great. The one thing I wanted to add to this discussion to hear what the board had to say about it too was, I'm wondering if we should finesse a little bit of the language about electricity consumed, because so much, yes, there's a huge amount of electricity that's a part of the Bitcoin operation or the cryptocurrency operation in an individual mining farm, but there's so much electrical consumption, power consumption that comes in upstream to even the creation of the products that go into building a cryptocurrency farm. You know, the equipment, you know, they get the coin based, you know, I only know enough about this to know that it's too dangerous for me to invest in it. But I know that the point is they have to be solving those tasks so quickly to gain those coin projects and those coin contracts, that they always have to have the latest upgraded equipment moving at the fastest speeds. So there's a lot of electronic device waste in the industry as well. And so you're burning through a lot of equipment, you're burning through a lot of upstream products that are creating energy and consumption outside of just the electrical consumption at the point of the farm. So I don't know, I'm asking for your help on this. I don't know if that's important to put in there. And then if it is, I don't think I'm smart enough to have the words to wordsmith that, to include that.
I'm going to piggyback on that one too, as far as I don't know if there's a source out there where we just get a general number that throws on the page and whereas how much energy this operation's estimated to consume. I know we kind of need to be careful with that in this document of being inaccurate, but if there's something out there to give it a little teeth, because you did a great job on this, Chris, but to add one more word to say, basically in light of the fact that this is estimated to use this much energy, the city needs to do this. I don't know if that's the exactly same thing Michael's saying, but I wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, I think we're on the same track there, Josh. Thanks. And I do actually have a study on that. I know as of November 2018, Bitcoin consumed 45.8 terawatts with an annual carbon emissions range from 22 to 22.9 metric tons of CO2 equivalent.
Oh, all right. Can you send me that along and I'll put that in as a whereas.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking, where now that we resolved, we can try to split this up where we make a recommendation. So be resolved that the Missoula Energy and Climate Team hereby supports the adoption of the proposed adoption of this. And I'm going to put that as number 1, and then I'm going to put as a number 2 something about considers also including the upstream energy consumption required for equipment, supplies and equipment.
Thanks, Chris. And I just sent that science article link out to everybody.
I'm obviously new to this discussion about this particular initiative. It sounds great to me because I think Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is a gigantic energy suck with, basically facilitating criminal enterprises, as far as I can tell. It sounds like just a horrific thing to have happen. And a problem with local regulation would seem to be, well, they'll just go places that are happy to have that kind of economic development in, another city or county. So is there any, use in, and this would be beyond this resolution, but just encouraging overall regulation, like statewide or region-wide, of Bitcoin operations?
I think it would be, although generally, at least from our standpoint, we address things that are local government related, where our authority lies, in terms of providing input and feedback for our local governmental entities. I think, obviously that's needed. The reason I believe that the cryptocurrency operation in Bonner got started was, there was a building there.
Yeah.
There was an excess amount of energy coming off of the Bonneville power system. It was at a very reasonable rate, and that's how we got it, and so we actually were that's how it ended up being here, and they went bankrupt and whatnot. But there's no reason to say it won't come back. And so, can we get other cities and states to take on, these renewable energy requirements or other things? I'm sure there's a lot of folks considering that. But for now, we'll just. I like to think about we're gonna do what we can do, and not take off too much. But a good point.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense, and I'm totally new here, so we've got to
it's
get used to the scope of what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not in that sense. We've got our charter, we've got our bylaws, and so that's where we try to focus our efforts. So we've got 2 additions to this resolution 2021. We are going to add a whereas based on the document that I received from Michael about the amount of energy consumed for Bitcoin data mining. And then we're also going to add a second that it be resolved. The first one being that we support this new regulation, and the second that the Joint Planning Board should also consider including an upstream energy consumption component to their regulation. So, any further discussion? Anyone want to put a motion on the floor?
I move we forward the resolution as rewritten.
A second. Scott seconds. So Michael put out the motion and Scott seconded. Any further discussion on the resolution 2021? 21-1.
Yeah, I had a question, or I guess an observation in your opening paragraph, Chris. You mentioned that, let's see, the requirement to develop or purchase new renewable energy. So there's 2 options there, but then later on in that sentence, you say that they must introduce new renewable energy onto the electrical grid. So that seems to limit those 2 options down to 1. They have to develop new renewable.
That's a good point. This is actually taken directly from the regulation. It was a copy and paste. So this references, and actually I suppose I should quote it or underline it to make that clear. But you're absolutely right. It is a little, and I found it a little confusing when I read it. So I'm actually going to put quotes there. And hopefully they'll note that, or maybe we can mention it if we present at the meeting on the 19th. All right, any other questions, comments? The 19th, I should be able to attend. I'll even though I'll be in the Daniel Boone National Forest in Kentucky. But is anybody else interested in attending if we do this? No big deal. Everybody's got a life.
If nobody else is able to do it, Chris, if you aren't, I'm happy to help out with that.
I should be able to. On this project, I can, oddly enough, so I should be able to get away. All right, so hearing no further discussion, we'll call for the yays and the nays. All in favor say yay.
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 All opposed, nay. Okay, the resolution is passed unanimously, and I'll forward this to folks before I send it out to that committee, and make sure that I've got it done right. So we'll move forward with that. I realized on the agenda I missed an item talking about the state legislative update, and I know that Jeremy and Michael have both been working on that. So I'm I'm going to go back to item B and apologize for missing it, and see what they have to offer. So I'm handing off to Jeremy and Michael.
No problem, Chris. Michael, if I provide a short update on my conversation with Jessica Miller, and then tie you in, does that make sense?
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay, sounds good. So Michael and I met a couple of weeks ago and talked remotely about how we can respond to matters that come before the legislature. And I will explain my kind of initial input. As I explained it to Michael, I think I kind of feel pushed and pulled in two different directions. In one direction, the effort that Michael did 2 years ago was a huge initiative and spent, I think Michael spent lots and lots of hours reviewing bills and understanding what legislation truly meant. And sometimes the title of the legislation can be misleading. So you need to actually dig into the actual bill and understand the details and understand the financial impact and things like that. What the end result was of that and how much benefit the city of Missoula and our committee received from that is certainly a point that can be discussed. So that's kind of on one side. On the other side, with the change in the governor here in Montana and the makeup of the legislature, from that perspective, I feel pulled to be all the more involved. I think the first few days of the legislative session have given us a good indication that it will probably continue to be fast and furious, and there will probably be lots of pieces of legislation that that could be discussed that we may not agree with, and some that we may agree with, as we've seen some bills just in the first couple of weeks on both sides. After Michael and I spoke a few weeks ago, I talked with Jessica Miller in the mayor's office, and she is the city of Missoula representative that works within the mayor's office and specifically looks for the legislation to understand it, not only from an energy and climate perspective, but also from a housing perspective, from the full gamut. They focus specifically on legislation that will have a city government impact. They don't delve into a lot of the other matters that fall outside of city government. As that pertains to energy and climate, what has come up most frequently and primarily is net metering. So things that would impact net metering either positively or negatively is something within the energy and climate realm that they review and goes to the mayor, goes to the appropriate department head, which in this case would be Chase Jones, and then comes up with a determination as far as how to act. So there's a whole very wide array of items that don't involve city government that could potentially be something that our team would want to voice support or opposition for. There's a number of other organizations within Missoula that share information on legislative bills, including MREA. I believe MEIC also has a website with some information. Climate Smart Missoula certainly has some feedback and thoughts. So before I hand it off to Michael, I guess my feeling is what we need to determine is how do we want to proceed and how much, how can we be most effective at understanding what the legislation says and then having a team or a committee action on that to either support or oppose, and then how are we most effective in helping support that bill be passed or helping to prevent that bill from being passed. Michael, I'll pass it off to you.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jeremy. I appreciate it. And I can't tell you how much I appreciated Jeremy's help with this and the conversations. It went a long way to helping try and figure out what we want to do here. And I'd also like to point out Brian's really important contributions to that discussion too, in making sure that we look at, as Jeremy talked about, a cost benefit analysis of the amount of time and work we put in as opposed to what benefit we get out of it. Having said that, and knowing that, Jeremy and I were the ones that discussed, how important it is to make sure we understand fully a bill's intent and ramifications. Moving on then with what Jeremy said and what Brian had brought up, Climate Smart Missoula pretty much has a breakdown of theirs MEREAs or MREAs and MEIC's positions on the legislation that really pops out, where we could just simply pull from that information, pull from the city's information, and just add our support or opposition as we see fit as a team, and call it good and feel that we've really done our job. Whether or not we want to try and get into anything in any more depth, that's where it comes back to that cost benefit. Is if we do find some things that got missed, are we really going to be able to affect any change in those?
These are important questions. Sometimes when you're taking on the state legislature or commenting on national regulations, you definitely feel like a little ant sometimes. And so I can see being concerned about how we might best do this. I will say that Jeremy and I did also have a brief conversation with Amber about how we might move these things forward. And Jeremy, you please jump in, but basically the idea is that if we thought there was something that was important for the city, that we would move through a process to get it through probably the mayor's office to the city's lobbyist, or through to Jessica Miller, to inform them that we think this is important if they don't already have it on their radar, to help educate them if that's necessary, so that the city is able to take a stand on it through their normal process. We wouldn't go to the legislature and propose anything, but the city has their point basically through the mayor's office. It seems to me is the primary place for that. And so we'd also have to figure out that venue, but that's likely how it would work. So if right now the city's focused on net metering, for instance, and that's very important stuff, but we know we've also got this House Bill 17 about the tax credits for home installation of small solar systems, and also wind systems, and how individual residents can realize the tax credit gain. They want to change, they're proposing to change the rule to allow for that. Otherwise, you may not realize the full tax credit gain. This is one that the city might miss, but is really important, and getting the city to comment through their lobbyist, or sending a letter to the committee chair or whatever. I think that's of great value, and it's be a lot more useful than me just typing out an email to the chair of the committee or whatever.
Chris, I think the other good thing to share is when I spoke with Amber, she talked about the quite comprehensive and fairly expensive Zoom kind of setup system that the legislature has purchased to facilitate citizen input. So being able to, voice a comment during a meeting without being physically present in that particular meeting room, amongst dozens of meeting rooms at the legislature for dozens of different meetings. So there's also that kind of avenue as far as speaking up for either in support or opposition to a piece of legislation. And something else that I think about is, so our mission or our charter, from one perspective, to get buy-in from city council to either support or oppose, and then also kind of from a public education perspective. There can be a lot of things that go through the legislature very quickly, and we've seen that in these first few weeks. They're not waiting until the end of February, March, April to make some of these decisions. They're being pushed forward very, very rapidly. Do we want to engage in a process to encourage citizen input? And does it make a difference to the legislatures if there are more individuals that make public comment regarding a bill? On a side note, there is a training session today at 5 o'clock. I got an email about that earlier that is being led by MEIC, and the focus of that is providing input on state of Montana legislation and that process and how you can be the most effective.
It's some good questions. I think we always have to be very careful that we're not an advocacy organization. The city, of course, can advocate for itself, and that our job is to inform and educate the city, in this case, whether through the city council or the mayor's office, about these issues. In terms of educating the broader Missoula city residents, in order to do that, we'd have to do it in a way that we were ensuring that we were not advocating for a specific position outside of what the city already believes is the direction they want to take. So you just have to be careful that way. One of the things that we educate ourselves, this team now, and each one of us can reach out through the state legislative Zoom system or the emails or telephone, whatever you want to use, and advocate as individuals, because we're educating ourselves about these things. So nothing's stopping everybody from doing that themselves. But yeah, it's a good question as to how to more broadly reach out to our community about some of these legislations and their potential impacts to the community. And I don't have an easy answer for that one. I don't know. Anybody else wants to jump in, please do.
Just listening to what everyone said, I appreciate. I feel like I hear a middle of the road opportunity arising with what was said about Climate Missoula and what they're already doing. They're gathering, compiling the information. We rely on them for that. With our radar up for legislation that's going to cripple our mission and what the city of Missoula is trying to do through us in their programs. And when that comes up and it's identified, that's when we get to work. We route something to the city and say, hey, this really threatens what we're trying to do here. And so we're not being everything to everyone with that approach, but I feel like we're being proactive enough to try to protect our cause and what we're trying, the reason we're here. So I just want to throw that out there. I don't know what everyone thinks, but just I do think the burden of members of this group going through individual legislation, I don't want to put that on anyone unless your heart's in it so much that you want to do that. But that's my proposal.
Yeah, that's where we, I think, using this has been sort of the discussion, but there are a lot of off ramps and on ramps to this, but basically use the existing information from other advocacy groups and then use that to form positions that then we would take to the administration and see if they'll move it forward through their various elements, whether it's through their lobbyist or writing a letter or advocating in whatever way that the administration seems believes best. Yeah, that seems to me to be sort of at least manageable. You know, we've got one, it's on the agenda now for this House Bill 17 on the tax credits. And I don't know, based on what you heard, Jeremy, it doesn't sound like this one is on their radar. And we certainly can help them get it on the radar. I saw through one of those advocacy organizations that there's going to be a committee meeting coming up here on the 17th, maybe the 16th. And so it would be good if some message from the city could be forwarded to that committee. But I don't exactly know how the city will do that. But if we can help get that on the radar, that would be something of real value I think we can provide.
Were you talking about HB 17, Chris?
Yeah, it was, Michael.
Yeah.
Right.
So that, yeah, they did end up putting that on Climate Smart as a support for that. And the bill was heard by the House Taxation Committee on the 7th, but they didn't take any action. So there's still time to weigh in on it. And that seems to be, there was another one, a taxation bill that was heard by the Senate Taxation Committee today at like 9 this morning, but I haven't heard the outcome of if there was a vote or not. But that seems to be, you know, there's a popular political strategy recently across the nation that how you get things done is just defund them if you don't like them. And that seems to be a general tack that's happening in Montana with energy and climate issues this session. So just to give a heads up about what we might be looking at.
Right. So,
Josh, I can agree with, you know, kind of your methodology as far as kind of the middle of the road that you described earlier. You know, I know that Michael did just an enormous amount of work 2 years ago, and I wish that I could sign on to take half of that load or to take all of that load. I think for my own sanity, I don't think that I should sign on to do that. And I think the road that you're describing, Josh, I think makes sense. And certainly if there are additional pieces of legislation that we come across that either Michael comes across or I come across or anybody else on the committee comes across and says, you know, we need to raise the profile of this particular legislation, I think we could do that. But I think there is some logic to not from the outset trying to review every piece of legislation individually.
Agreed.
So, and Michael, once again, thank you for your enormous work 2 years ago to shepherd, you know, I think shepherd is a good word to use, to shepherd the legislation with the energy and climate team focused.
I appreciate that, Jeremy. It was, I think, a self-imposed penance.
A bit of good humor is good. It makes the day much more enjoyable.
all right, well, we have 6 minutes left. So one of the things based on that we have general agreement on how to proceed, that we do take on a couple of these pieces of legislation that are pending now in front of committee, specifically HB 17, the Alternative Energy System Tax Credit, and Senate Bill 7, an act revising tax credits for energy conservation, and propose that our role will be for our working group on legislation to take information forward to Jessica Miller, and maybe and also to Amber Sherrill, and figure out how to get that also to the mayor's office, and at least in some brief way state that these are pieces of legislation that we believe will help the city meet its goals for carbon, stumbling over my words here, its carbon neutral goals. So I make that as a motion. Anybody want to second or discuss?
I will second the motion.
All right, any discussion? All right, so the motion is that our working group on legislation will take information about Senate Bill 7 and House Bill 17 forward to the city administration to let them know we think it's a priority for the city to work on. And then we can also offer support in informing them additionally about the bills, or working with them to get educated on bills. So with that, I'm going to ask for yays and nays. All those in favor say yay.
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 All those opposed say nay. Okay, hearing no nays, we have unanimous passage of this process to move forward with the city administration. We got everything done today that we wanted to get done, and look at this, we got 4 minutes to go.
That sounds
way to go
to me.
I feel like I need a nap now or something. So before we head off, I'm going to ask Dave and Trevor if they have any last comments about the insanity about working in a city board, and whether they're second guessing their choices.
Guys, I have a 2 o'clock, so I'm going to cut out. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we'll see y'all next month.
Thanks, Josh.
See you, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
I would say it's pretty interesting so far. One quick question I have is if there is any association of boards like this among the cities in Montana that, like, do we communicate directly with, an analogous body in Bozeman or Billings or any place like that?
The way this has worked in the past is that, Chase Jones's and Charlotte Six office has communicated with similar position people in other cities in the state, but that our board, our team has not. And I don't know that I think we could. I don't see any reason why we couldn't, but there isn't anything organized at this point. I have on my list to do some research to just see what some other cities are doing. And I know I got some information actually from Robin Saha, former team member, about some things that are going on in Bozeman. But no, there isn't that I know of.
It seems if we want to comment on statewide legislation that if there was an association of boards like this that we could speak with, if we could agree on things, that we could have a fairly strong voice in that way.
Yeah, and I believe the city, coordinates with other city governments on legislation. There's I can't think of the name of it, but there's an association of city governments, and they do coordinate on this sort of stuff, but not at our level. But a good point.
It's a great point, David. And I think the only one of consequence other than ours is Bozeman Climate Partners, as Chris was referring to.
All right. Any last words for the good of the order?
Have a good evening, and thank you, Chris, for your good work.
All right. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate the support. So the next meeting is the second Thursday of February. I forget the date. As usual, we'll get everything out. Anybody have any ideas they want to put on the agenda, just forward them to me. We try to get the agenda out 1 week ahead of the meeting. I want to thank Megan and Lisa and for being on today, helping us get this done. And with that, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks,
You bet.
Welcome, David and Trevor.
Thank
Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Take care.